I want to introduce is Elmar's wife, Karen. And so she, as great as this gentleman may be and the story that he's going to tell, imagine she has gone through this as well. And so she has strength that may be as equal to Elmar's in this. So let's give her a round of applause. And then Dr. Haykowski could not join us today because he has a master's thesis defense, so he sent his right-hand man to join us today. So Dr. Wesley Tucker is a postdoctoral fellow in Dr. Haykowski's lab. He got his PhD at Arizona State, I believe. That his bachelor's work at North Carolina State, where he was a collegiate golfer. I have been on the course with him. He's okay. So I can take it. So, you know I cannot. Man can drop bombs with a driver, so amazing. Great scientist, but equally pleased to have Dr. Tucker here to introduce Elmar. And so Elmar is going to, I think Dr. Tucker is going to talk for about a 5-minute introduction, a little bit about transplant and the topic. Then Elmar is going to talk about his life experience, and then that'll be about 45 minutes, and then hopefully we'll have some question and answer period that you guys can ask some questions. Also, if you have questions in the middle of the talk, Elmar just told me that you can raise your hand and he will answer those questions at that time. If you have something that Dr. Tucker may be able to ask, we'll work that out as well. But I do appreciate you guys coming. I know that 6 of you had to come, and so I'm counting you right now to make sure you're here. Looks like you are, except for one of them, so I'm going to rain some fire down. But hopefully we will have a great talk. But I think this is, if you went to Dr. Haykowski's talk, this talk is going to be amazing. Elmar gave the talk at UT Arlington as part of their lecture series, and it was amazing. So sit back and enjoy.
Thank you for the kind words and the nice introduction, Dr. Davis. My job today is not to steal any of Elmar's thunder, which there's a lot of thunder. My job today is just to kind of briefly give you some background on heart transplant. And so what kind of happens after a heart transplant in terms of, when someone starts cardiac rehab after they get the heart transplant, are individuals ever able to kind of get back to kind of a healthy age-matched norm? And so I'll kind of talk about, you guys have hopefully learned in your classes that, determinants of VO2 or VO2 max and kind of the central and peripheral factors that kind of determine VO2 max. And so I'll kind of talk about, well, what happens to someone after they undergo a heart transplant? What happens to these factors? So this is basically just going to be a 5 to 10 minute quick summary of Dr. Haykowski's talk that he usually gives when he does this presentation. So some quick background, and you guys, if you are familiar with heart transplant, you'll know that the first heart transplant was actually done in my country where I'm from, in South Africa. I'm actually from Cape Town, not far away from where the first heart transplant was done, a little before my time though, 1967. December 3rd of last year was actually the 50th anniversary of the first heart transplant ever done by Dr. Chris Barnard. And there's some controversy about how it happened because he kind of went to America, he trained with Norm Shumway at Stanford, basically learned the technique, and they went back to South Africa and did it in South Africa because South Africa didn't have the same laws that the US had at the time. That, I think in 1968 they only approved heart transplants in the US. So anyway, I should just tell you that we did the first heart transplant, and we're better than you, at least in heart transplant, but not really. So quickly, let's go on. So this is kind of the time course of change in peak VO2. So peak VO2, VO2 max, kind of the same principle if you've learned from class. One just uses criteria, the other one doesn't. But for the purposes of today, VO2 peak, or peak VO2 is just the same as VO2 max. This is kind of just a timeline, so we just wrote this review for Exercise Science and Sports Reviews. Dr. Haykowski was asked to write it, and so I helped him write the review. So this is kind of just a timeline of what happens to peak VO2 kind of, before and after the heart transplant. So if you see down here, most of these heart transplant patients, and I'll show you a slide with Elmar's VO2 on it as well, they're somewhere between 8 and 12 milliliters kilogram per minute. That's their peak VO2 before they undergo these heart transplants, which, as you guys know, we're probably at that peak. We're probably at that VO2 right now. I probably am, at least, standing up there talking to you. So if you'll notice, in the first year, most patients have about a 7 ml per kg per minute increase in VO2 peak. So just taking their heart out, that doesn't work, so they get heart failure, They need obviously the transplant for a variety of reasons. So taking the heart out and putting a new heart in, or you say new, but someone else's heart in the body, functioning heart, they do get a nice bump of about 7 milliliters per kilogram per minute in the first year post-transplant. However, as you'll see, after the first year, it kind of plateaus. And so there's not really much of an improvement in VO2 peak after that. Unless you're Elmar, of course. He's kind of the cool outlier of the group. There's a couple of different reasons why this is the case. So if you think about the pathophysiology of exercise intolerance post-transplant, there are some cardiac limitations when you transplant a heart into someone else. The first one being that you have to denervate someone, so you have to cut the vagus nerve. And so once you place the heart from someone else into the chest, their resting heart rate will basically be 100 beats per minute. Unless they're Elmar. He's probably slightly different as well. But most heart transplant patients have a resting heart rate of around 100 beats per minute at rest. And then their maximal heart rate is only probably about 120. 115 to 120 to 130, which, as you guys know, you guys do a VO2 max test, your heart rate goes all the way up to about, somewhere between 170 and 200 or maybe 210. So they have kind of this chronotropic incompetence is what it's called. They're unable to kind of elevate their heart rate during exercise. And so if you look at this little column graph on the right, where it says HR reserve, so their heart rate reserve is greatly reduced. So they're unable to, if you remember from exercise physiology, when you start exercising, if you want to increase cardiac output, you either have to increase stroke volume or you have to increase heart rate. And so they are greatly diminished in their capacity to increase heart rate. There in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see diastolic dysfunction. Their hearts don't relax and fill with blood as well as a healthy age-matched norm. Even though they've got this brand new heart, again, I say brand new heart, but they've got this fully functioning heart, that heart does not relax and fill as well as someone who is healthy and age-matched compared to them. Also, the pressure for a given volume in that left ventricle is a lot higher. So in order to kind of fill with the same amount of blood, it requires a lot higher pressure to fill the chamber with blood. Okay, well, also, we kind of think about, okay, so the problem with someone is their heart. You take their heart out, right? Put in a new heart, and that, since, the heart was the problem, we put in a new heart and everything should be fine. Well, one of the reasons why you kind of see that VO2 peak go up and then maybe plateau, one of the main reasons is probably due to kind of these peripheral factors. So as you guys know, as I already mentioned, I'm kind of repeating myself, but VO2 peak is a combination of central and peripheral factors. You have to, if you remember the Fick equation, which Dr. Davis probably taught you, it's cardiac output, is the central determinant, and then the peripheral determinant is your ability to actually use that oxygen that's being pumped to the periphery. So how well you extract, or how well your vascular function works to actually get that oxygenated blood to the tissue that is required to be used for exercise. So in these patients with these heart transplant recipients, we know that their vascular function is impaired, and they also have a reduction in type 1 oxidative fibers. They have a mitochondrial dysfunction, and they typically have a reduced capillary to fiber ratio. So it's kind of, we were actually chatting before the talk about cyclosporin or some of the rejection meds that these patients have to take. So one of the side effects of these drugs is that they actually reduce capillary density. So they actually directly have negative effects on the muscle itself. So if you reduce capillary density, that greatly diminishes your ability to kind of deliver and extract oxygen in the muscle. So these are just some of the, I guess I'm telling you about all the bad things that happen to these heart transplant recipients, and just to give you an idea of how incredible Elmar's story is. He's basically competing against all of these pathological changes. So this is the last slide that I'm going to present, and he's going to kind of present some of this data as well. This is just from Dr. Heikowski's circulation paper in 2018, where he's basically just showing kind of Elmar's journey. So he started out, at 46 was his VO2 max, and then he had heart failure. He went all the way down to 13, as low as 9 mLs per kg per minute prior to the transplant itself, and then I'll let him tell the story, but he started training, did the cardiac rehab and that kind of stuff. And now if you look all the way out at 68 months post-transplant, his VO2 max is all the way up to 59 mLs per kg per minute, which is a lot higher than someone his age and his gender. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of a background as to some of the reasons why heart transplant patients really struggle with exercise intolerance, and now Elmar's going to show you why he's basically kicked the crap out of all these. Okay.
I have a question. What is capillary?
You say capillary?
Capillary, yeah. Okay, I get it now. Thank you.
If you had market, you would have said skeletal.
Skeletal.
Yeah. Skeletal muscle. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the invitation. And first of all, I have to apologize a little bit for my English. So if there's some misunderstandings, so please ask. Maybe I sound like, hopefully not like Arnold Schwarzenegger a bit, but we are close where he's from. And I'm talking a little bit what happened, why I needed a new heart, and then just the way I got back into the sport, and then how I got into contact to Professor Ajkowski and to Mark. And if you have any questions in between, then you can just stop and ask the question, and it's maybe easier than in the end everyone is sitting there and no one asks something. I will just start really quick where I am. So I'm born on Christmas. It's not very good if you are a child. And the area where we're from is, I don't know, Salzgitter is completely unknown, but you can directly forget it. It's in the middle of Germany somewhere. And I'm married. My wife is sitting over here. And she is actually part of the story. I studied economics, marketing, and actually I studied 6 months in, we saw that our rental cars from Arkansas. So I studied in Arkansas. I don't know, I was chosen I've not chosen it by myself. I think I had not the best time there. It's really a little crazy state, I think. But I studied, hopefully there's no one here from Arkansas, so I apologize for that. But I studied there. My major was like marketing, as it is there. And then it's in Germany now, it changed a lot. So I have a master or whatever in economics. I don't know if that's correct. So it's a diploma. And I was like, I started with playing soccer a lot. That's pretty normal in Germany. And actually we are pretty good in that. We're not really good in basketball. We went to what?
Not right now.
Oh, not right now. No. Yeah, we're doing good. So I was actually with Karen at the Mavericks game. Basketball is much better here. So I saw a basketball game from Cologne, where we live now, a couple of years ago. It's not comparable. So it was really nice to see that. And then I did everything a bit. I did track and field in school, and then I did mountaineering. I went to the base camp of Mount Everest, trekked there, I did skiing, snowboarding. I was like doing snowboarding races. I do some wave surfing, not really good, but I tried everything a little bit, and then it ended up with some smaller back problems. So the doctor said I should go like for a swim and buy a bike, and I did that, and then I fall in love with not with Karen, with triathlon as well, so with both actually. And that is the way it started, and this is the way my life looked pretty cool. So I was like, I had a nice wife, and I had good friends, and we traveled a lot. So I started with Ironman racing. This is where's the pointer? This is Ironman Florida, and then also Florida, and then this is with Karen, with friends at Mallorca, and I tried to do some wave surfing here. And I worked in I was like a sales rep for a US company. And traveled around Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. And here I did, in Germany you can go with your mountain bike over the Alps. You can do that by foot, and that's very popular. You start in Germany, and then you drive to Lake Garda. That's a nice lake in Italy. So everything was pretty good, and I was totally fit. And I went to cardiology, started with 35 because of the Ironman races. I just wanted to get sure that everything is fine. And in the same, in this year, in April, or I think in April, I went to the doctor. Everything was okay. I was a little bit short breath in that year, so and then the doctors told me that I've like is it allergic? So I had an allergy. I actually have an allergy against some trees in Germany. So that was really a year which was really hot. So everything was growing, and so I had breathing problems. So I got a spray, and still my goal was to train for the Ironman Austria. And that was in July the 4th. So on actually I did the race, and I quit at the half marathon. So actually, I don't know if you're familiar with Ironman racing. Ironman is like 3.8 kilometers. I'm always doing it in kilometers. I'm not familiar with your miles. It makes me crazy in driving the car here a bit. And that's 3.8 kilometers swimming, and then it's 180 kilometers cycling, and then it's a marathon running. So totally it's 226 kilometers. And I end up at the half marathon. I didn't feel really good, so we end the vacation. We drove back, and then I went back to work, and actually I was sitting watching the Tour de France on that day. It was a hot day, and yeah, this is. I got a cardiac arrest on my sofa, and the things which I'm telling you now is just, yeah, Karen could do that better. She had she had an appointment with a friend. They wanted to have a coffee. It was a hot day outside, so they decided to come back earlier to where we live. So Karen was sitting in my office, and she asked me a couple of times something, and I was not answering anymore. So she came in our living room. I was completely blue. I was not really breathing anymore, and she recognized there's something really serious wrong with me. So she went to our neighbor. He's a doctor, and it was like in the end, I was lucky that she was there, and I was really lucky that the neighbor had a knee surgery, and he was there for another 3 days. Normally at 10 to 6, he's always in the hospital working, and he gave me the. What is it?
CPR.
The CPR, yeah. He did that, and he did that. In the end, he said he did that in 27 people before, so he's really good in that. So I woke up at 10 to 8, and it was not a TV screen anymore. It was like I had cable in my nose. I saw Karen. I saw a lot of doctors, and it looked very serious. And in the beginning, they told me not really what happened, but then after a few hours, they told me what happened. Here's just a slide, and I'm not really going through everything. That takes too long. Normally I use that. In Germany we put it the other way around. So this is July and August, and this is then the day. So you just that you see what happened. I went to this happened, the cardiac arrest, and then I stayed in the hospital. They did all the stuff like the heart catheter, MRI, and then first what they always think what happened is if you are young, if you're doing sport, then they asked if you had a cold, if you trained with that. So they thought it's like inflammation. It's a myocarditis. Is it the same word here? It's like a virus or bacteria infects your heart, and then like you can get a cardiac arrest or something. It's nothing from it was nothing from my family side or so. So they did all that tests, and then they did a lot of other tests. So I had to go to a lot of hospitals. So then I went to the Charité in Berlin, that's our capital. They did the test again, so they put me in the lab, and then tried to get the heart out of rhythm. If the heart is completely okay, this is not going to happen, but it happened again, so I got a cardiac arrest again in the lab. I woke up with my skin was burned, so they shocked me. And then they said, okay, you don't have so much luck again, so you need ICD. Is it ICD here as well? It's a kind of pacemaker, but it has a function to shock the patient in case the heart rate gets too high. What actually happened in my case?
Yeah, internal defibrillator.
Yeah, they installed that, and yeah, to make it short, they had to get it out again because sometimes in one day it was a hole. So it came water out of my skin. It looked not very good. So I went to my neighbor again. And then actually I went back to work, so my EF, the ejection fraction of my heart, was pretty okay again. Let's say, I think everything in Germany, in the echo itself, if you echo it, if you do it in a catheter, it's higher. In an echo, it's between 55 and 65, you're okay, you are healthy. Sometimes even if you have people which are really good in sport, if they rest, it's even a little lower. So mine was a little bit under 50, which was not normal, but it got back to, let's say, 51. So they said, okay, you are young, I was like 38, and you have a good job and everything, so you can go back to work. And I went back to work, but I recognized I flew a lot, so if I went with my laptop bag into the airplane and I get up the stairs, I felt, it didn't feel really good. So, and then I told the doctors, I said, yeah, you stopped working out for 3 months, but if you're really fit and you stop working out for 3 months, the feeling is, I think, very different. And then on the 14th of January, we were like, it was during the night, I woke up and I said to Karen, there's something wrong with me, and I went to our sofa, I checked my blood pressure and everything, and my heart rate was only like, I think it was 23 or 24. That's even for guys who driving the Tour de France, they don't have 23. And it was an AV block. I don't want to make it too medical. It's like the sinus rhythm. It's not transferring anything, and then the body is just doing like a, it's just for a few minutes they have this kind of system installed in everybody. So we went to the neighbor again, and then he had surgery at 8. He said, yeah, I'm not a cardiologist, so you got the ambulance came, and they didn't figure out anything. And so I did the rehab, which was not really good, because I was sitting like with guys together which has like a heart attack and stuff. So, and then I was sitting in classes like this, and they told me how to quit smoking, but I didn't smoke. And my blood pressure was 90 to 60, so it was not high. And my cholesterol, my bad cholesterol, the LDL was like 85 or something. So it was really disappointing. These people got all better during the rehab, and they just told me you cannot go back to work, you just have to sit down at home. So I went back to Charité, and they did a lot of tests. In the end, here they said, maybe I need a new heart. If it's getting, the ejection fraction was increasing, like each month per like 5%, and they said they don't know what happened. So it was not from the family side, it was not a heart attack, a stroke, or no bacteria, no virus. They said it's just they don't know what. And then I started studying myself. So I went to a clinic, I did a blood washing. I just knew that before from like Rolling Stones, and those guys are doing that. Actually, I met Billy Island TV show, he did that as well, he told me. And it was because of taking a lot of drugs and alcohol. But there's like, in Germany you have cases which, like the immune system is attacking your organ. And then if you filter out the I don't know what it is, the plasma, what is responsible for that, then it helps people to get back to normal function. In my case, to make it short, nothing helped. In the end, I went here to another hospital, and then they took out some pieces out of my lung. It's a sarcoidose. It's a lung disease, and I hope that I have that, but that in the end can affect a cause to that is like in the end it could have the effect that it destroyed my heart. But in my case, they said the lung is okay. You don't have that disease. And as you see in the very end, here they took out the gallbladder. So if the heart is really, really bad, and we are talking now, they did tests with me, and my anaerobe threshold in the end, let's say in October, November of this year was 40 watt. So yesterday there were some stairs, but if you do like this, this is like 40 watt. So, and that was hard for me to do. I could do that for 100 meters, but I still looked the same. Maybe less muscles, but I still looked the same. So it was hard to get up, to get like stairs up and thing. And then I had really pain suddenly in this area. So I went to the doctor, and they said they need to get rid of the gallbladder. So it was another surgery, and in that surgery, that was here. In the end of December, it was really like the surgery. It was really close that I not died, but I had risen problems, a lot of risen problems and stuff. So and then in the end, I was sitting here. It was 26. It was my 40th birthday, and it really was a worst day. And then I asked Karen and my parents to bring me to hospital. Before they always said they said you have to go to hospital again, you have too much water in your body. And as you can see here, from the end of December 2011, I stayed to 11th of July, so 7 months in the same hospital, and like 85% of this time I was lying in bed. So if you can imagine, like in the end it was 189 days I stayed in bed. And what happened there, I'm telling you a little bit. This is how it looks. In the beginning I was making fun that I'm maybe the founder of the selfie, because people asked me, what are you doing? I was in bed completely all the time, and this is how it looked. I looked not really good. But actually what happens, in Germany we have like a law which you have to sign something, and then the parents have to decide if you get brain test, and if you can donate your organ, then the relatives have to decide it in the end. So if you go to Spain, to Austria, there you are a donor, and then you have to say, no, I don't want to do it. So a lot of people are doing it. In Germany, every third person is dying on that waiting list, and we have like a normal list and a high urgent list that you only have to live like half a year, and then if you don't get the new organ, you're going to die. And I was on that high urgently actually because my ejection fraction was around 11, and as you just mentioned, my VO2 max, that was the time I could get up. I was not the last 6 months they didn't measure anything. It was by 9, and there's another crazy thing. It was in January where I looked like this. Because I was really sportive, did Ironman races and I ran marathons and stuff. So I did actually test the lactate test, and my lactate just lying was 11. So at 4 millimole, that's a threshold normally, and I was like just lying there was too much for the body. And so I got a lot of medication which was running inside of me, and then in mid of February I was not, it started my feet got numb and everything, and I was sleeping a lot, and Karen was there. It was mid of February. I got another cardiac arrest. It was on she always, we are living in Cologne, and the transplant is 240 kilometers away, so she came always on the weekend, and during the weekend with friends and my parents, which lives close by the transplant center. And Karen was there, and she ran out, and then they told Karen and my parents that I have another, I don't know, 12 to 24 hours to live if they wouldn't install like a LVAD system. That's a little ceramic pump, which with a tube fits in. They install it at the end of the heart, and that helps the left ventricle to work properly. But at that time, they opened me. They saw that the right ventricle was completely damaged as well. So they installed. I woke up with tubes in my leg on the left side, and in my upper body there was a tube inside, and there was like a heart-lung machine, so the blood was running through there. Normally, with a heart-lung machine, it's just made. The machine is made like for 4 to 6 weeks, and then normally the right ventricle is getting better. So then with the left ventricle, you have a little, like it looks like a camera bag, and they're like this size, and then you have like a cable, a drive line goes inside, so you even can, it's called bridge to transplant, you can go home and then wait at home, and the average is like 2 years, and it's getting problems with the drive line, but you can do a little exercise even with a LVAD system, and then you are much fitter for before the transplantation, because then in the end, at that time, the last, I think 3 weeks after that big surgery where they put in all the machine, that took around 10 hours. I couldn't imagine. I don't know. I was sleeping all the time. So Karen was there. She said I was like, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I couldn't speak properly, and then it got actually better with the machine. This is how it looked before. By the time I was. After this bigger surgery, I look a little better, and I had like really short, mid, and long term. Like it was my targets. Like was really like the short one was, and that's even I always have to tell that. But it's in the end it's a funny story, because if you're not allowed to drink a lot. You are lying there all the time, so your stomach is not doing anything anymore. But if you if you cannot go, the word going is not the word, because I had to go on the pen, you know. I had like a catheter for the urine, and the rest I had like, they had to turn me around, and then, but if you cannot, actually, if there's nothing coming out, then they help you. And that's not very nice, so you know what I mean. And you get a lot of fluid and stuff to drink, special kind of fluid, and this was not working in my case. So if you lie there, it's not really about cholesterol and stuff. So if the patient likes to eat whatever, fast food or pizza or whatever, you will get it. And then I asked my father, normally I'm not a fan of McDonald's, it's very popular here, we have that in Germany as well, but I think it's not really good stuff. But in that case, I was very hungry, and the doctor said, oh, that's great that you're hungry. So they told my father, and the first time my father went, he drove through a drive-thru. He did that the first time, he's over 70 years old. I ordered 2 cheeseburger and chicken McNuggets and a Coke. And after that, I directly could go to this pen. And every time when after 3 days, when I was, then they asked my father to, they called him on the mobile and said, yeah, please, you have to get some stuff from McDonald's for your son. That's a nice, really crazy story, but that helped. So it was good for me. And in the midterm goal was this, they had to put like new tape on it, because they opened me completely to put in the pumps, and then yeah, this was also not very nice to get in the catheter directly. It went in here, and yeah, it was always like, it was every 2 weeks they had to change it because of infection and stuff. So it was not really nice. So and the long-term target was I wanted to get out of that alive. So I really prayed that yeah, in the end you have to pray that another one has to die. Because in my case, if it's a kidney, you can spend a kidney to someone, but the heart, someone, it's not possible. I have kind of black humor, so my sister is 183, she's my size, and I always told her if she doesn't want to live anymore, she said, it's like we are close to the UK, they have the humor like that. But my sister and I, we are fine. So, yeah, this is actually the machine. This is the tube this was the blood which came, and I always had with my iPhone with a light on it. I checked the inside of the tube, because there are plugs in it, and if the plug is it's going out of the wall from the tube, then you get a stroke. But in the hospital they had like the black humor as well. I think it's the area where we are from. They said it's not this one will go to my lungs, not to the brain, so they can solve the problem. And I don't want that. So, and in the end, yeah, we stayed until the 8th of June. It was the beginning of the European Soccer Championship. I was really looking forward. So there was nothing nice on the TV was on. Karen was there. It was a Friday again. And then, yeah, we had the pizza. I like